Hello and welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Justin.
And I'm Darren.
And today we're going to be talking about
Pepe Porcupine.
I picked this game for you, I think, based solely on, well, there were two things really. The way the character looked and the mixed reviews that I believe it has on Steam.
Okay. Yeah, well, the way the character looks is he's a porcupine. What made you pick him because of that? Because he looks bad?
The face looked a bit weird.
He does look a bit weird. He looks a little bit deformed.
So it reminded me a lot of when I had you play Uganda No Way, and I went, okay, maybe this is the same developer or something equally weird and annoying.
Now that you mention it, he does look a little bit like that Knuckles kind of character.
But some of the reviews were saying things about the controls being really difficult. And I know it looks like a kind of game that you would want to play, but I thought that might be even more frustrating. Like this could actually, there's one thing with something like Uganda No Way, which is just probably not going to be good to begin with. But this one had the potential to be the type of game you would like to play. But if it's awfully designed, then that could be even more frustrating. Yeah. But I wanted to see. So what did you think of Pepe Porcupine?
Pepe Porcupine. Well, first of all, it's a Sokoban game, which is basically where you push blocks into holes. That was invented in like the 80s. I think it was 81 in Japan. And there's been a slew of these kind of games. When you said, I want you to play this game, A, I didn't even know that I had this game. And B, when I saw it, I was like, oh, great. It's basically Push, which was a game that I got on my cell phone years ago, like on an old flip-top phone. It was one of the few games that I actually liked on that. And I completed it many times. I played Push 2. Awesome little game. And yet I love these kinds of puzzles because they're quite tough, but they can be deceptively tough. They can actually be really simple. It's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, this is impossible. And then you shut it down and you come back and then you immediately go, oh, that's the solution there. And you're finished in 5 seconds. So
is this similar to Chip's Challenge, which I think we've mentioned before?
In a way, I guess. Chip's Challenge is much more detailed and there's a lot of power-ups and things that you can get. Chip's Challenge is more about, it has elements of Sokoban puzzles to it, like when you push blocks into water to make kind of dry land for you to cross water and stuff like that. But yeah, so I was quite happy to play this game, but it does have a lot of the problems that you mentioned. It's like, it's odd to control at points. Like, you'll press the keyboard to move him, or you can either use the keyboard or you can click on the arrows on the screen with your mouse. The input lag seems to just like come in waves. So sometimes he'll move immediately. Sometimes he'll take like a second to move after you press the key. So you pressed it 2 times because you thought it didn't register the first one. Then as you press it the second time, he steps 2 squares and then you've pushed a block into a space that you can't get it back out of. Luckily, there's an undo button, which is very helpful.
There pretty much has to be for this type of game, right?
Yeah. You'll see in my footage, I was using it quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, I played the whole hour. Honestly, I thought I'd finish it in an hour, but then I had a look at the actual screen and there's a ton of levels for this game. It's cheap and it's got about 200 and something, 250, 260 levels.
That's actually part of my problem with this type of game is after a while I get so bored with it, I just don't have the patience for it. That's where I think having it on your cell phone where you're playing it during your commute or you're waiting in line, I could see doing that a bit more. But what I don't see myself doing is sitting at my computer playing this kind of game when I've got so many more different games to play and different types of games to play, that this kind of game, at the beginning I always love it, and then there's just a certain point where I go, it's not fun for me anymore.
Yeah, I can see that becoming an issue. Yeah, it's definitely more suited to like a mobile platform for sure. But what it kind of got me thinking about was what's even more interesting, I guess, is not the game, but the nature of the game. And this kind of game, this kind of puzzle is classed as NP hard. And I'm not a mathematician by any means, but I wrote down a bunch of stuff about it because I thought it was really interesting about the P versus non-P kind of problem. So P means polynomial, which means it's easy, basically. It's just something that you can go through some simple steps to get to the answer. So, for example, alphabetizing something or adding 2 plus 2 together. It's easy to get to the solution, and it's easy to check the solution. NP is non-polynomial, and that means that they're hard, but they're still easy to check. So in a game like this, you can't see the solution immediately, but once you have the solution, you're like, oh yeah, that's very easy when you're given the key. And this whole this whole P versus NP thing, there's so much depth to it. I didn't realize until I actually looked online, and see how these kind of things branch out and what they mean for us as gamers or as people who do computer programming or mathematicians. People are trying to solve this P versus NP problem, which means they think that these hard NP problems may have easy solutions to them. And so computer scientists are working to bridge that gap. Perhaps there is, just like in this game, there is an easy way to solve that puzzle. Boom, there it is. And if they could solve that gap, it would mean that they could really up their game in like research, like things like cancer research. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff like we could cure cancer if we could solve the P versus NP problem. It's really interesting. What was I saying? So the research stuff. However, on the flip side of that, if they do solve the P versus NP problem, it means that all of our stuff, like our banking transactions and our passwords online, will be up for grabs by anyone because they're all based on NP hard kind of problems that are difficult to crack. So you've got cure cancer, but lose all of your banking, like maybe lose all the money that's in your bank account.
You've totally lost me. So are we talking trying to get computer programs to understand the difference or people to understand the difference?
A bit of both. I mean, we're trying to find a way that makes these hard problems easy. We haven't found it yet. And there may not be one. There's some people there are two camps. People that think P versus NP will never be solved. People who think it could be solved. And it's just a matter of time. Pretty weird. People are saying it can't be solved because if you can make all NP problems easy and like have a very simple solution, then it kind of will destroy every kind of creativity. It would mean that nothing is difficult in the world, basically, and anything could be recreated using a computer. A computer could be as creative as a human being could be if they could understand and simplify our very complex processes.
So this is going back to the Turing test, then.
Kind of, yeah. It's used as part of a Turing test because it's not just these NP problems are not just about finding the solution through computations. It's about, how many computations does it take to find the solution? How long does it take to solve these problems? So, for example, a game like Pepe Porcupine, some of the levels, a computer will look at them and it might take them X amount of time to solve it. I don't know if it's nanoseconds, seconds, or hours. But yeah, obviously, the harder the problem, and the more outside of the box it is, the longer it would take the more kind of stages the program would have to run through.
But once the computer does it, it won't forget, unlike me, because I would go back and then not remember how to do it anymore.
Yeah, that was kind of my big thing. And then I kind of came back to, the game's all right. It's like I went on this big thing about like, oh, this is really interesting. This was way more interesting than the game was because, well, it just is. The music in this game is torture. It's absolute torture. But I switched I kept it on the entire time.
I think that must be part of the policy because otherwise I can sit through an hour of almost anything if I'm just going to put a podcast on instead of listening to the game.
It was the same drone over and over and over again. It was like
just one song for the whole thing. Yeah, and
it felt like a 10-second loop to me. Sometimes he gets stuck in animations. Sometimes like I said, you press him, he doesn't move, so you double tap it, he moves 2 times. But overall, it wasn't a bad hour to spend.
What did the game look like overall?
Blocky, kind of 1999 graphics. Not very pretty. Like you said, I like a really deformed kind of Knuckles kind of character. Oh, another thing is sometimes when you want to move him, and this happens a lot on each level, he just kind of stands there and he shakes. Like, no. What do you mean, no? Fucking move. And I don't know if at first I thought, it's a hint system where he's telling me like that's the wrong way to move. But no, it's not. It's just got this random animation where sometimes he's like, nah, I don't want to move, but I want you to move in that direction. And then so you have to wait. It's a good, I don't know, 2 to 3 seconds of him just shaking his body down, like a dog getting out of water kind of thing. And then eventually he slows it down. And then after he wiggles from side to side, then it's like, okay, now you can move. Like, really? That's a fucking odd choice of a mechanic to put in a game. Like, and especially in a puzzle game where you just want to get through it as quick as possible and get to the next one so you can keep solving them quickly. Like, that, even though it's only a couple of seconds, it's a huge impact on the gameplay. The mind boggles why they would include that. Tons of levels. If you've got patience and just like want to just tap to move rather than tap to move them across the screen, then yeah. But overall, I'm fairly patient with this kind of stuff. So that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me, but I can see it being a massive problem for anyone else. Like, it's okay. It's okay. It's not good and it's not bad.
But this is top down, right? You're looking at him from the top?
You can change the angles to like kind of there's three angles to use. You can do a top down and you can do kind of an isometric from the left or an isometric from the right, which I didn't like. I prefer just top down, which is a lot easier. The controls are already wonky enough without me having to go full isometric on it. Yeah, as far as tags go for this game, it would be Sokoban, puzzle, and mobile-ish, you know?
Okay. And would you recommend this game to me?
No, definitely not. Like you said, you've already nailed it. If it was on your cell phone, you'd probably like it. And I can most likely recommend you a decent one on cell phone to get. But yeah, as a Steam game, it's just a port, man. I haven't checked it out. It must be a mobile port. And if it is, it's a very lazy one. So no, I would not recommend this to you or anyone really, because the lag is just too much and the music is frustrating. But if you turn the music off, like you said, and watch a podcast.
You can, but that'll make it tough to play the puzzle game you're watching.
Listen to some music, throw on something and just play it, then sure. But again, it's an odd platform to release a game like this on. Like, you want to play it for 20 minutes a pop. Certainly not an hour like I had to do.
Would you continue playing?
I think I already deleted it, man. As soon as I got the hour in, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
How far did you get?
Level 33.
Oh, you only had like 170 to go?
Oh, man, there's 250. 250 levels, man.
Okay, so you only had 220 to go.
Yeah, but, good on them for that. A lot of levels for a game like this, I think, is important because you need a lot of levels. But the thing is, they're not hard to generate. And also, when I was playing this, I was like, is this just a push-push ripoff? Which is dumb because there's been thousands of these games already. But then, once I started looking back, they all do kind of share the same... Well, they all look the same because they're the same kind of game. But even the level design is very similar because I guess there's only so many solutions you can have in a set, like, grid. And they have to be a certain shape to allow you to complete them. So I was looking at levels going, I remember this level. And this is a game I played, like, almost 15 years ago on my cell phone. But the levels were so, like, yeah, they just popped out. I was like, no, they've ripped them off. But no, they haven't. It's just, these are your only options.
But Push Push wasn't the first of these kind of games.
No, Push Push was a Korean ripoff of probably a Japanese or a Korean ripoff of an American Sokoban game, which in turn was then a ripoff of the Japanese one. So yeah, it's like Sudoku or something like that. It's just they're all over the world, but I guess they have an origin in Japan.
So would this be a confirmation or a remorse?
It's a buyer's meh.
No, I don't think we can allow that because that's going to be 90% of our response if we go with that. So you played it for an hour. Did you enjoy the hour? Was it worth whatever you paid for it, which is probably not much? It
was in a bundle, so it probably cost 10 cents. I got an hour's worth out of it. It was a bit frustrating. Could I have spent my hour better? Yes. So I'm going to go with Remorse.
Remorse.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you liked this short podcast, and if you've got... Oh, fuck.
That's just going to stay in there. This is going to be the regular ending.
Yeah. If you like the short podcast and you want to listen to a longer one, we have another podcast called Filling in the Gaps,
where we take a look at puzzle games or puzzling movies, kind of mind benders, and try and take them apart and put them back together again. So you can find us over there. We also have a Steam group where we give away games, and we do puzzles over there too to win those games.
Or you can get a hold of us if you have questions or suggestions at buyersremorsepodcast@gmail.com.
No apostrophe. I don't know what movie you're running with now.
It's clearly going to be yours.